Hello, welcome to Break Up with Decision Drama. I'm so glad you could be here tonight. Glad to see you all. I've heard from so many of you about the stresses and struggles that come with decisions and indecision that make you feel like you're in a pressure cooker. Am I right? Well, that in turn creates drama internally and also externally when we get all sideways with our bad self and it spills over onto those we love. So, we're going to explore this together. Now, we make thousands of decisions each week, and there's no way to stop them. It's an endless onslaught. We're not going to do anything about that. But what we can do is we can streamline them. Okay, that's the goal. Who's open to making a shift tonight with this? All right, all right. Me too, as I learned from you as well. Well, when you leave here, I want you to feel 100% aligned and confident and also just zero guilt about the upcoming decisions you'll make. And that's my hope for you. That's my wish. But first, a little bit about me. Christy Anderson. I'm a life and empowerment coach, but I haven't always been. My background has been in ad agency work. I was an account executive going between the art directors and the clients. And now I kind of see the parallel as the middle child, and in that role in life coaching, that I like to connect people with truth, so to speak, and help people see things from a new point of view, challenges, much like what we're talking about tonight. I'm a mom, married, mom of a 17-year-old daughter. I'm on the on-ramp to empty nest. And I love Indian food, love chicken tikka masala. And I like boba tea, but it makes me giggle. I don't know why. That is funny stuff, that boba tea. Live in Tampa, and I love fostering kittens for the Humane Society. So that's a little bit about me. But first of all, what are some examples of decision drama anyway? What about if you have kids, if the school approaches you, or maybe the neighborhood association heads your way, you see them coming a mile away, they're going to ask you for a commitment. Maybe a friend. I know back in the 90s, it seemed like everybody was asking me to host a party in the home for whether candles or cooking or something. And we said yes, right? Because we didn't know how to say no. So, how about a bigger one? Maybe picking whether you're going to homeschool or not. If, between two jobs, if you're going to move cross country, something like that. These things get us overthinking, over researching, over analyzing, and if you're like me, just flat out over it, right? So give me a one in the chat if you know what I'm talking about, if you can relate to me. And we'll get chat going together and have some fun together with some various exercises. Oh, okay. Well, got it. Thank you. Now let's get it out there.
How
Why
do
are
you do
decisions even a
that? I
struggle?
don't know how to do that, Christy.
Oh, okay. Melinda, you just go down to the three
Oh,
dots,
a chat.
and it'd be great to have you in there.
Okay, I got it. Sorry. Go ahead.
Awesome. You better type a one or you're out of here. Just kidding. Well, I want to talk to you about why decisions are even a struggle. And I believe that there's a certain amount of discomfort, normal discomfort that comes with change and decisions anyway, because there's ambiguity, there's uncertainty. And let's face it, you've never made that particular decision before. Why would you know how to do that? So you got to go easy on yourself about that. I wanted to tell you, I had an enthusiastic gym personal trainer at the gym one time years ago in a sweaty, rigorous class. And she said something that I didn't like at the time, but now I understand it better. She said, people, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I hated that and didn't like her that much at the time, but I understood what she was saying, that we were busy making changes there and we had to learn that. So let's talk about something else now. Let's talk about procrastinating. I think there's a certain amount of fear or apprehension that causes us to defer or delay a decision. I think it's truly why we procrastinate. And I want to have you ask yourself a question. Could it be with a decision that you're thinking about lately that you're a little afraid of making the change? I think our psyches want to keep us safe. Our mind goes towards the negatives of all the bad things that could happen. And we operate out of fear because we think, my gosh, we're going to make a decision that's going to cause a problem down the road for ourselves. So it'd be better maybe just to put that on hold. But at crossroads, there's not always a right or wrong decision. I think you've probably found this too. It's not just black and white. But the deceptive little thought is that there is just one way, and you think there's just one way to be, or else you're going to get trapped, God forbid. So I'll give you an example. When we were struggling with infertility and we were looking at options, there was a crossroads we came to between really two options left. And my friend saw me struggling with that, and she said, Christy, it's as if you think there's a wrong way to go and there won't be an escape and you'll be trapped. I think that's when I learned that. And that freed me up to realize there were opportunities with each path. But that thought that I was thinking is a sly little fox in the vineyard stealing the grapes of peace from you. You know what I'm talking about? Well, let's talk over researching now. I think we all know what that feels like. We also do this out of fear that the outcome is not going to be perfect and cause us additional problems. It's probably the reason why some of us, if not all of us, overpack a suitcase. Anybody? Yeah, like the 6 pairs of shoes, the 3 bathing suits, all that. I don't know why I do that. I want to cover the bases. That's why, right? Well, we don't need to research something to death, because you know what? The decision I found won't ultimately create your experience. You will. You'll have the power. You won't have all the control, but you'll have the power to mitigate it as you go and pivot and recreate as you go. Overpack just in case. That's right. Shelley, you know it. I feel it. So a solution here with the over researching is when you recognize it in yourself, you could coach yourself and tell yourself a new narrative. Okay, ready for this? What if I did this thing and it turned out amazing? Like, the mind loves a question, right? It wants to work on it. So give it a positive question to work on. It really could turn out amazing. And like Sharon said here, the outcome's not going to be perfect. And it's just so true. We have to get over ourselves about that. And you know what? Let's go to the worst place, because you're thinking, but what if it does turn out poorly? Well, let's say it creates adversity for us. Well, we don't have to, hide from adversity. It finds us anyway. Am I right? I mean, the other thing is we need some struggle in our life to expand and grow. Just like, the sand and the oyster shell creates the pearl. And also the butterfly, why it struggles out of the cocoon is it's strengthening its wings so it can actually fulfill its purpose. So learning how to face the adversity isn't a terrible thing for us. Those of us with kids might know you want them to have a little sandpaper in their life, that math teacher that's hard, because maybe they're going to have a boss down the road that'll be the same. Okay, so got a little exercise here. I want you to think of a decision that has been concerning you. Heck, it could have popped up tonight. Can you identify if it's a fear, a lack of information, lack of money, or lack of support? These are some kind of pillars in there that might be undermining you doing it. So take a minute for a minute. Again, a fear. I won't make you do numbers because we'll have to keep those straight. You could type in the chat if you know. Is it fear stopping you? Lack of info, money, budget, or support, accountability? I'd love to hear what some of you think. And welcome, Connie. Okay. And hello, Rebecca. Got some thinking
And
going.
then again, I guess I'm moving slow tonight. Fear,
Okay.
lack of info, money, and
Fear, lack of info, money, or lack of support,
lack of something.
keeping you from maybe moving forward with something. And if it's something else, you can type that too. And remember, not making a decision is a decision in itself too, right? So,
is fear
okay.
one of the options, or are they all types of fear?
Well, I'm just thinking kind of to simplify it with options now. If you could identify, if we saw any pattern here, fear, lack of info, money, support. And you know what? I want to challenge you with these and even if we don't get them down right now, I want to challenge you. What's one step you could take towards action over that thing? Okay, because I don't want to leave you hanging with that. Once you identify what that is, I want you to be thinking about it. Give your mind that positive question. What if it turned out amazing? What if I could take a little micro step? Lack of money, budget, yes, y'all know what that's like. Support, lack of info and support. And sometimes we can ask a question to get some more info, gather some more information. Fear. I relate to all this, and I think we have commonalities here. Fear, yes. Thank you all. That helps to hear from you and to know that I'm not alone in, what I think about things like that. Now, tools. Let's move on. I promised you some tools, so let's go. As far as pace of decisions, there's a difference between quick and rush decisions, okay? Now, you want to make quick decisions on simple things from a place of rest and ease and peace and confidence. But when you feel fear, guilt, or impulsiveness, put the brakes on. Like, we can save time and energy on the little simple decisions that we can make quick, like the yogurt in the yogurt aisle, the 100 choices. Don't stand there forever. Pick one. There'll be more there next week. So save time. But if you feel rush or pressured or guilt, then, like on your car with the yellow indicators on the dashboard, it would be like a yellow light indicating slow down. That's your cue to slow down on that decision. I want to give you an example of a time that happened for me. I was just out of college and I was wanting to thank my parents for helping putting me through college. And I got a phone call in the evening from, a scam artist, and he promised a cruise to the Bahamas for $300, a cruise for to the Bahamas. I thought I could get that for my parents to thank them. And I said, well, I'd like to think on it and get back to you. He says, no, it's only good for this phone call. And I was young and naive, and I thought, I don't want to miss this. So what do you think I did? I bought that cruise. My parents never went on it because it was like a tugboat that went to a Bahamas hotel that had like bars on the windows. And my parents said, I'm so sorry, but I don't think we're going to use that. And my husband said, don't you know that when you make a rush decision, that man was pushing you because he wanted you to decide really quickly? Anyone else have something like that happen where you felt pushed? Yeah. Well, I want to talk to you about your best yes, okay? I get really excited about this concept because I read a book that changed my life in a lot of ways, really. Truly, it gave me a roadmap. The Best Yes by Lisa Turkhurst. And the premise is that every yes to someone or something is a no to someone or something else. And I'm thinking, I'm getting a little feedback. I wonder, Jennifer, maybe I'm going to have you mute just because it's possible it's coming from there. Great. And Rebecca says yes, and I always feel leery when they push me. Yes, my instincts were lit up then, and I should have heeded them. And VG is pressure on myself. I think people are expecting me to respond faster. Yes, that's such a good point that that falls into with decision making, kind of the people pleasing element that comes up, right? So I was going to speak to that. We have a fear of disappointing people, but we're doing that all the time, right? Anyway, I saw a funny picture, I think it was on Facebook, that said, remember, we're not pizza. Not everybody's going to like us all the time. And I thought, right, I'm going to let people down. I'm not going to please them. And remember our mantra, the personal trainer's mantra, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I've had to embrace that in my life. Now, who has heard of the acronym HALT? Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Some of you may have from some of the material I put out, but is it new to anybody? Or was it new? Okay, well, I want to talk to you about it a little bit as far as I want to describe them to you just a little bit, and then we can talk about it. Hunger, when you make a decision out of hunger, hunger rushes you, okay? And it makes you irritable. Anger can blind you. Loneliness can distort things for you. And being tired or fatigued can over magnify things, okay? You recognize some of this in your life. So let's do a little exercise with this if we can. In the last week or so, maybe it's long before then, think of a time when one of these came up and tripped you up. Was it hunger, anger, loneliness, tiredness, fatigue? The key is self-awareness. So I'm curious. Becca says, I get hangry. Hangry, it's both. It's the combination. Tired from Jennifer, Sharon. Yep, I hear you. Thanks for contributing because I mean, I didn't know these things. And y'all relate to this? It says tired. Yes, that hits me a lot. I need to know my limits on things. And it's self-awareness, right? Knowing yourself. You know, I wanted to tell you a story that when my husband and I were looking for a home one day, it was around the lunch hour and we pushed on after church and we were just going to go look for a home. And I got snappy with him and I really did. And I was so glad he didn't snap back. But instead, he met me with kindness and said, you know, I think you're tired. I think you're hungry. I think we need to stop this. And I said, no, I can push on. And he says, no, it's time to stop. And I was really glad that he had the self-awareness and the control. But do you all relate to anything like that? Okay. Well, anybody have anything to share, you're welcome to. I'm just checking comments here. Okay, let's talk about what a wise woman taught me. And that person may be in this Zoom right now. I won't tell you who. But no being a complete sentence. No, it's okay to say no to someone respectfully. For instance, I invited a friend one time to a fundraiser. And you know what she texted me? She said, we'll have to decline, but thank you. Wow, that was so empowered. She didn't give me the reason. She didn't have to. Had she given me the reason, I might have tried to solve it and fix it for her. And that really wasn't my place, was it? So if someone has a problem with your no, it's really a boundary issue and it's not your problem. It's not your burden. Are you with me on that one? Yeah. I think it's respectful what she told me and it was the right thing. I think it's the same reason my husband doesn't tell his staff when he leaves the office. He doesn't tell them whether he's going to get a haircut, go to Home Depot to get sprinklers, or go see a performance of our daughter. Because what would happen? The same thing, judgment, maybe critiquing what he's doing. It's best to just kind of keep it to yourself sometimes. I want to talk to you about overthinking versus deep thinking. Do you know the difference? What are you doing with the decision that's facing you? Are you going around dwelling on it and stewing in it? It's like the thing they say about rocking in a rocking chair, going real fast, not going anywhere. Or are you deep thinking, which is limited in time span and is intentional and produces action steps? So I wonder if, you know, if you think about something that you've been concerned about and identify that and what you've been doing with it. I hope that can give you a little step you could take of being intentional, limiting the time and taking a step from it and free yourself from the overthinking. It's been a game changer to me and been kind of a litmus test on how to tell what's going on. Okay, so let's see, we have a comment. As far as doubt and making decisions, a fear of the unknown, good question to ask is, would you do if you're certain you didn't have to worry about what others might say? Absolutely. Really like that, Connie. Thanks for that contribution. That's good insight. Everyone doing okay? All right. Well, I want to talk to you about timeline troubles, AKA borrowing trouble. There's never a good ROI on that, return on investment. There just isn't. A lot of anxiety comes from the what ifs. And what I mean by that is trying to solve a problem ahead of time. It gives you a false sense of security and control, which you don't have. And you really can't project ahead because you're not there yet. You don't even have all the pieces of the puzzle on the table to even look at and assess. So it's very premature to do that. So now I think about it, when we do this, we're just burning energy and time. And I know some of you, like me, have had to wait on maybe a job interview callback. Or how about an uncertain diagnosis, waiting to hear what something is? Yeah, I dealt with that this year and I had to decide, to not worry and not be concerned about it. A friend this year who deals with breast cancer, we got to talking about her situation and what could be. And, she stopped herself with self-awareness and she said, you know what? Let's just not get ahead of ourselves. And I'm going to borrow that from her because she was absolutely right. And in the chat, I see overthinking is debilitating. 7 years ago. Worry is a misuse of that imagination. Oh my goodness, yes. Worst case scenario, it holds us back. Yeah, we're worried that it's going to cause a problem. I really think that's what it is for me as well. But you know what? Have you heard of the acronym FEAR? FEAR? False evidence appearing real. That's a good one to be aware of. I feel like it's a mouse with a microphone shouting at us, be afraid, be afraid. But I give you permission to flick that mouse off your shoulder and tell it to be quiet. And health diagnosis, yes. At some point or another, we'll all be in a situation where we might hear something like that. But again, to tell our mind the narrative of what if it turns out really well and it's nothing. Let's give our mind the positive question to work on about it. Anybody have any questions? Just want to make sure I'm giving you a chance. Okay, then how about some solutions to alleviate stress? If you're asked for a commitment and you don't feel aligned with it and you feel, say, rushed, say no unless it's 100% heck yes. Okay, I give you permission. My brother says he likes this concept. He told me the other day because he said he's done a lot of the opposite in his life of what the heck? And that's gotten him into a lot of overcommitment. So I want you to know something important. I think you already know it, that there is no perfect decision to, answer to every decision or dilemma. But knowing that action brings clarity, remember you can take little steps that help you see the next step, and then you can continue to iterate and create and pivot as you go. So you can keep rewriting, because too much focus on any one decision will create imbalances in other areas, right? Like, let's say, what if you just worked out your right calf at the gym? What would that look like for your left calf? Chicken legs, okay? So, we just can't overemphasize. And Rebecca says, baby steps every day. Yes, degrees really matter, degrees of change. So I want to talk to you about, let's see, I've got a penny here. A way to make a decision that is a gut check, okay? I haven't seen a penny in a while. I don't have a lot of change, right? There's heads or tails, right? So think of it this way. You assign one choice to one side and one to another, and you flip it, and it lands, and you look at it. How do you feel about where it lands? Are you disappointed? That's just another little yellow light on your dashboard that might tell you to assess it again. Okay, so, try that one in a pinch. Do we have any photographers here? Anybody who likes photography? Well, I want to talk to you about the concept of just widening the lens, okay? Widening the lens. And what I mean by that is consider more than one workable solution to something. Look at 2 or 3, because when you do that, you look at 2 or 3, it frees you from becoming attached to a favorite narrow solution. It gives you a chance to widen the lens and see things from a wider range. So I want you to tuck that in your pocket. And also, another concept that I thought you would enjoy is just acting in the energy of the moment, okay? Now, I don't mean to be impulsive, but I did have a friend tell me that when I was trying to decorate my house, she said, Christy, when you go somewhere like TJ Maxx or Target and you see a vase you like, and you know you like it and you know where it could go and it's a good price, go ahead and get it. Don't overthink it. Don't say, oh, I'll think about it, come back tomorrow, because you know what happens, right? You'll come back the next day. It's probably not there. You burn your time, wasted 2 trips, and you're disappointed. Can you envision a time you've ever done that? Missed something? We might have some decorators here, or maybe in another area of life that you think, oh, I should have. Why not just go ahead for it? Trust your instincts. We have so many decisions. I think we're suffering from decision fatigue. But truly, if we give too much weight to any one decision, it's just gonna fatigue us more. Okay, I think you're gonna like this exercise in applying it to what you've got going on in your life. I promise you to give you 5 key questions to making a confident decision. And Jennifer says that you can always take it back. That's right. That's right. We need to know that. Okay, on the 5 key questions to making a confident decision, and you might want to take notes here. You can always follow up with me. Let's say if you have children and you're making a school decision, let's just take that because you want to assign a goal, right? And we'll run through the 5 questions. Number 1 is, what do your circumstances say? What I mean by that is circumstances like, what do your finances say? Can you afford that school if it's a private school? What about the distance? Could your children walk to it? Will you have a sense of community there? You know, turn it around. What are the circumstances about it? Number 2, what does wise counsel say? Your best friends, your significant other, people you can trust their judgment, what do they say? Would be number 2. And then number 3, for those of you who are logical and linear, which I really think we've got to have number 3 in this 7-layer dip, 5-layer Mexican dip we have here. Number 3 is, what are the pros and cons say? And you know, you might whiteboard that or do an Excel spreadsheet on that. I know I've done that before and assign points just to give yourself a little linear execution. And number 4, what does prayer or meditation say? When you get quiet, what does your inner impression say about that decision? And then number 5, what does your gut say? So I found that when you take those 5 questions, because they cover so many bases, that the answer typically emerges. People think that the direction for your life is so elusive, but with these questions, you really can narrow things down and the answer tends to arise. I've never had it not happen for me. Does anybody have any questions about any of those? Sharon says 4 and 5 work best for me to cut the overthinking. So prayer, meditation, and gut. Trust in your instincts. Okay, VG is the same. Anybody else want to contribute there? I really like running things through this filter because it covers so many bases. Wonderful, Shelley. Thank you. Yeah, and getting quiet because again, you know, we don't want to be rushed by someone pushing us for a decision, but why would we rush ourselves? What does the Bible say? Yes, yes. I want to see, and that's wise counsel there, isn't it? Listen to my gut. Very good. So I'd like to know that moving forward that you might get to practice those, and I'd love to hear from you if they help you to come. Now, I know I'm talking to some, if not all of us, with this. Don't keep trying to make this decision after it's been made. Okay, does that resonate with anybody? Oh my gosh. I did that as a little girl at the toy shop. My grandpa said, which toy do you want? Got one. For 2 days, I suffered over. I thought I got the wrong one because my brother got the one I really wanted. And the regret that VG's talking about, yes. But okay, so when you ask yourself, why am I still making this decision after it's done? You're asking yourself, did I do the right thing? But listen, after it's been implemented and it's past the point of no return, at this point, let it go and move on. Because if you're ultimately unhappy with that decision, you can learn from it and take actions to mitigate any damage or negative things and make a pivot, right? So that takes the air out of the balloon that's pressuring you to say, oh no. Again, the mouse with the microphone shouting, be afraid of the decision made and pivot. Yeah, I love that. And it's just a truth that we need to know that we can pivot. We're not stuck. There's always an exit ramp to everything. In the long run, too, one of the most important decisions you can make is not to insist that you always make the right decision the first time. Are you with me? Okay, this is kind of fun. I don't know if any of you have secret family recipes, like secret family spaghetti recipes. Anybody have something in their family? Well, my friend, nobody's given me one. I want a secret spaghetti recipe, but I don't have one. So someone needs to give me something. But I wanna give you a secret that's worth this whole session. And I say that because it comes out of the vault of my mom's wisdom. Okay, this is straight from my mom. So she's not on this Zoom tonight. Secret lasagna recipe, awesome. I'm gonna get it from you. But she says if you use this secret, you don't have to pay her royalties. Okay, so is that a deal? So if someone asks you for a commitment and you don't want to do it, feel rushed, it's not aligned with what you want to do, she taught me to say not what you can't do, but what you can do. Okay, what can you do to tell the person? Let me give you an example, and then we'll see if you've got one. Okay, a few years ago, we were asked to foster a Haitian child. Remember, there was an earthquake that had happened, and there were about 10 Haitian kids that had come to our church, and a lot of our members and some friends were taking on some foster kids. And I was approached to foster one, and we prayed about it, we thought about it, but we weren't genuinely feeling called to it. So instead of saying, no, we can't do that, let's apply this concept. And my mom had helped me then with this concept. What we said is, you know what? Here's what we can do. We have an extra twin mattress that we're not using anymore that we could contribute to a family that needs a mattress. And we could also help offset some of the money of the preschool. That was a private Christian school they were going to send the child to. And we're like, we could chip in on that. And here's what we can do. Nobody was upset with us over what we can do. And, we were making a genuinely aligned decision for ourselves. Does anybody have anything they want to share that is anything similar, anything that you feel like, or that you could say what you could do? Any examples? And maybe this is going to be something that's just moving forward that you think about, because this might be a new one hitting you that you haven't heard before, what you can do. Just such a positive way to respond to somebody. Okay. Well, listen, a new concept. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I could bring you something of value that maybe you didn't know and could help you, because really I'm just a great plagiarizer of other people's wisdom passing on to you. Love language of cooking when people need it. Oh, good idea. Right. Here's what I could do. I could bring a meal. Okay. Thank you for sharing these things. I really enjoy your comments. And so lastly, with uncertainty, here's the thing. You don't have to know how something's going to turn out. The only thing you actually need to be certain of is that you can trust yourself and that you can be certain that you will be able to handle the problem or the decision when it comes up down the road, okay? That's the thing that you need to be certain of. If you take nothing else from here, that you don't have to have all these answers, and no, it won't cause adversity, but that you will be able to trust yourself. And I'd like to read another one of these. You may say yes and later decide as a no and a yes, and then it's okay to say no. Okay, Valinda, I appreciate that one a lot, that we don't have to be trapped by our answer. We could say, you know what, that's actually not going to work so well, and here's what I can do. And Connie says, sitting into the decision I'm needing to make and seeing if I feel expansion or contraction is a good way to decide which way in difficult decisions. Yes, that's much more expansive than the penny flipping, right? To really think expansion or contraction, that's a real gut check there. I love that one. I love that a lot. Oh, hi, welcome. Nice to have you. Love your curls. Well, I'll tell you what, you all have been so wonderful, and I want to be mindful of time and, leave time for questions or anything else. Let's wrap up by doing any takeaways. Okay, any favorite things? Let me give you a prompt here. Maybe something you learned, something you're curious about, or an action step. So think about that for a few seconds. What's your favorite takeaway? What hits you like, oh, I'm going to put that in practice because I'd love to know what's been helpful. So what, maybe something you learned, curious about, or an action step from this. Okay, Shelley, I like the 5 questions when making a decision. Cool. Yes, Belinda. Thank you. The 5 questions. Boy, yeah, I'm so glad I learned that at a conference a few years ago. And the mind loves a question, give it a positive. Someone trying to force you into a decision instead of saying, no, I can't do that. Here's what we can do. Yes, Connie, thank you too. That we have options in responding, that we can keep our boundaries, be respectful of the other person, be kind, and also still be generous with maybe there is something I can do. Thank you, Rebecca. I think that's hitting home with you. That's very aligned with me. I'd love to know more about helping our older kids navigate the big decisions. You know what? Maybe we need to do a workshop where we get kids and teens on, because I would love them. And we have a kitty in the picture. That's cute. Jennifer says, widening your lens, consider more than one solution to a problem. Yeah, kind of like a Rubik's Cube. I was never good at it, but I did watch my friends look at all the options of the ways they could go, and not having to give a reason to your no. Yes, you can be kind, thoughtful, and still not have to go to that fundraiser that you don't want to spend your time at. Wonderful. Well, I hope you can envision not fearing any upcoming decisions now. Are there any questions that you have, or anything that's coming to mind? Because we've had a little journey here. Anything you want to share? You're welcome to unmute yourself too. Chat's been fun. If there's anything you want to say, please feel free to, though.
Yeah, I have a question about deep thinking versus overthinking. What are some good strategies to know when you're about to cross that line? Like if you're in the deep thinking before you get to the overthinking, you know, how you can kind of pivot. What would you suggest?
Yeah, good question. I think that I recognize that when it starts to bleed into the whole day and it bleeds into everything. It's you wake up, it's almost like an idol that you're thinking about. It's the first thing you think about. You probably wear down your family members talking about it, and nothing's getting done on it. They start to get irritated with it, and you think this is bleeding all over the day. Not containing it and not ever getting out of the goo and the quicksand of it.
It's like you're in my house watching me, Christy. That's exactly what happens.
Well, because I am all of you. And some of you most likely do this better than I do, but I'm just a girl passing out wonderful things I've learned. But that's a great question. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Or a wisdom from your own self to share? Oh.
I just want to say that I thought that was so great when you said, once you make a decision, don't go back and like second, go thinking about it again. Because I heard something earlier today, or was it today? I don't remember. But anyways, it's about like when you kind of start questioning something, you start creating this doubt, and then that doubt creates inaction. And so I really love that. You're like, just stick with your decision and don't overthink it.
Right. Because again, like we talked about, it won't be the decision that makes your experience. It'll be you anyway and what you make of it. My friend's husband just took a new job and left another company after many years. And he started yesterday. Now, what do you think he started thinking Sunday night? He came to my friend and he said, I don't know what I've done. I don't know. I might have made a mistake. And I said, send him to the workshop. So yeah, thank you, Connie. Anyone else have anything?
A thought, and I wrote it in the chat.
Okay.
But sometimes what I do when I'm looking to make a decision is I find myself saying, like, what's the worst case scenario? And what I find is that often it's not, sometimes it can be, devastation, but for the most part, a lot of times it's really not that, the worst case scenario is not so bad. So that really helps me sometimes, or like I can change those decisions. Like when I was considering moving to California,
Right.
And when I was considering moving back, I thought, well, I felt like it was the right decision, but I was like, if it's not, then I'll move back, or, or whatever. Like that worst case was not so bad. But with that being said, I know that, decisions are important, and sometimes you can't rewind them or take them back. But I find that a lot of times that really helps me when I get kind of stuck. I'm like, you know what, it's not so bad. So.
Yes, I like that you went there, you took yourself, because a lot of anxiety is by projecting ahead. So you took yourself to the worst case scenario and what you could do with it.
Right.
That shows a lot of resilience. It's great. I'm seeing some more things in the chat. Deepak Chopra.
I love what you said about that it's not the decision or the circumstance that makes the experience, that it's you do. Like, to me, that's just so empowering, because I can get really worked up in my head about decisions, and even the clarity that I initially have dissolves over time because I create so much like just spinning. So I thank you for that. That will stay with me for sure. So that made a real impact. And then I did have a question sort of similar to Sharon's, which is around research, because I can get over research, and there's so many resources available to us to make decisions. And I imagine this is a personal, I mean, the answers to this is probably going to be personal, but I'm just curious to hear from yourself and anyone else about how you guys think about research and, when is enough enough?
Would anybody else like to offer anything before I jump in? You've heard a lot of me. Would anybody have some wisdom they want to share?
Well, I am someone that overthinks things, and I will analyze it to death to the point where, like someone today said, hey, I need a new laptop and I know you bought one this year. What'd you end up buying? Because they know that I researched it ridiculously. But I think I just have to come to a place where I feel peace, where I've really thought about it. Laptops are a hard decision because there's so many things that you have to think about. But I think sometimes I just really have to go through and beat everything to death, sometimes to a fault. And then it just kind of comes to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't have any more questions. And then I can be at peace with if I buy something. But I do know that I overthink it. I know I do.
Yeah, I understand. One example comes to mind when I was wanting to redo my daughter's room, at that pivotal 13-year-old stage, wanted to update it. And a friend is a decorator and offered to help me. And she says, I have some things in my garage. You have some things. We're going to do this. Why don't you go look for the rug? Just go to this place. And I'm going to go to this place. And we're going to set a timeline of 1 month. There's no reason this needs to take more than a month. And we looked at the date. She said, on this date, we're going to reveal it to your daughter. And I thought, wow, just like a wedding, if there's a wedding, I have seen if a girl has 3 weeks or if a girl has 6 months or 18 months, she'll take all of it. So speaking to Jennifer's point, I think we could let ourselves take all that time unless, I was so glad my friend said, we're only taking a month. There's no reason you have to live with this for more than a month. And you know what? By golly, we did that reveal and my daughter was happy. And you know what? I could have looked all over town for better rugs or a different color rug, but we used the one that worked and it worked. It all came together and we limited the over research. That helped me. Deadline.
Yeah.
I really like that. I like the deadline. That's a great idea.
And also, if you were building a house, I know I have a friend who was building a house and she let herself for chandeliers look all over the country. I just went to the 3 stores in town and I thought those are really my options because my propensity was not to want to trust a whole lot of shipping at the time. And so I think that she might have worn herself out a little more than I did. She got the results she wanted, but I think that I didn't want to be worn out. I think I had to decide to not be worn out.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, Christy. Thinking like I didn't want to be worn out. And that's kind of similar to a question that's popping into my head right now, which is what else could I be doing with my time? I think is a good way to cut the research too, because I have definitely found myself, spiraling into realizing I just spent the last 30 to 60 minutes researching different similar products on Amazon. And am I any better off, really? Right? Like I could have gone for a walk or a hike in the last half an hour, right? And that would have been so much better for me to go for a hike than to spend that 30 to 60 minutes researching, right? So I don't usually ask that question in advance. It's usually more of an awareness after the fact. But if we can get to the point where we're asking it proactively, like that can also help to cut the
right,
research,
like second nature, that we're our own coach with that, asking ourselves, wait a minute, what am I doing? And Valinda said that she gives herself a time limit with most things. I think that's true. I think that's some self-discipline there, don't you?
Yeah.
And we
I
have
love
to
it.
do that. I think we have to rein ourselves in. I don't know that any of us grew up. I don't think there was ever a class in school that taught us how to rein ourselves in. So Rebecca says, create more than you consume. Connie, yeah, I hear you. It's so great. Thank you for all the great input. I think it really helps to get other people's perspective on this because the goal is that we all move forward feeling more empowered. Any other questions?
Just a comment, similar question along those lines that has been helpful to me recently is how can I make this simpler or easier? And that kind of goes against my nature. I tend to overcomplicate things. So if I ask myself, how can I make this simpler? It does help me arrive faster at a decision.
I love that question.
Great.
Y'all need to take that one to the bank, really use this one. Starting tonight or tomorrow, there's so many of these things, these little frameworks that we can use, and they'll come back to mind for you. And I think it'll be game changing for you. I mean, we all think we know how to make decisions, but I really have discovered by doing this kind of research and bringing you this tonight that there's just a lot of things that can help us simplify, because we don't have time for all this. We've got a lot of people counting on us, a lot of decisions to make. Sacred Sunday, and do not get on social media at all on Sunday. Yes, that's simplifying life as well. And I know I have a friend that said, be an information gatekeeper for yourself. And to limit the input coming in, because then your mind's going all over the place. And I think it was Sharon that said earlier that she liked the getting quiet, but we have to be intentional about that as well, to get quiet so we can even hear what our inner impression is, because we really can trust that. A lot of times I think we already know the decision. We might want someone else's permission to affirm it. And that's okay we live in community. I think it's very good to assess with wise counsel, but people that have your genuine best at heart and know what your goal is, that you can trust.
That's good, Christy. I like that. I was thinking about that earlier. Like, I think so many, for me, so many of the decisions I struggle with, I think I really, really already know. Like, those answers are already inside of me. It's sometimes the research or asking other people or whatever can sometimes like cloud that, when really if I just sit in silence, and for me with God, that my answers are there.
Yes.
And so I think that was one of the best things you've said, is like just listening, quiet, you get your answers.
You know what?
Ellie,
That is such a good segue into something that, I like to share with you that I really like about coaching, is that I feel like the answers are within us. And when I've coached someone and been coached, the answers are there. They just have to be processed out of me. They're there, but I need to be asked the questions, maybe not taught, because then I won't own it myself, but it to be drawn out of me. And that is what coaching does. Asking these questions, what do you think? And how do you feel about that? And what would happen if you did this? And what would be your regret if you didn't? So sometimes just bouncing those things around. Yes. Protect your peace. We purchase a process. Well, I want to be mindful of your time, and I want to thank you all. Been so wonderful. And if you want more of this goodness that we've had here tonight, and I can support you in any way moving forward, please reach out to me. Instagram at _Christy Anderson. And also I offer one-on-one coaching. Typically 8 to 12 weeks is what I find works for people. And these things, these goals that you might have, can look like the things we talked about tonight. Very simply, navigating a new change, a decision, a mindset, a perspective that's holding you back. And I'm running a special this month for anyone here that would be an extra free session on any of these packages. So I want you to know this moving forward for yourself or anyone else, that I love connecting people with truths, and I'm here for you for anything you need. And I just would love to be of service to you and others. And want to thank you for joining me tonight. You're all wonderful. And on that note, there's no other questions. I'll say good night to you, and many thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
That was so great. Thank you
Nice to
so
meet you
much.
all.
Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thanks for your
Christy.
contributions. You all made this what it was. It's good to meet many of you too.
Yeah,
Thanks
good to
so
meet you
much.
guys.
This was great.
Bye for
You
now.
guys.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Christy.
night.
I feel like I
You're
learned
so
so much.
welcome. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.